What is going on, you guys? It is your boy, Matt Talks Films. I am back with another video, and I am back with another review slash revisit. I haven't done a revisiting of a film in a while, but I had the perfect opportunity to this week. One of my favorite films of all time came out in theaters, and I had to go see it. Especially with the state of movie theaters, you don't know when your favorite classics are ever going to be shown on the big screen again, so I had to jump on this opportunity. And the film I'm talking about today with you guys is Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. My whole life, I grew up with Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2. I separated those two films into two separate films. I never considered it one whole picture. But after watching Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, I have no other choice but to consider it one big picture. So, let's get into Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. Like I said, my whole life, I love these films. I habitually watch Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2 2 to 3 times a year, but obviously I revisit Kill Bill Volume 1 the most because I love it. And obviously Quentin Tarantino, despite getting older and realizing he might be kind of annoying or not as interesting as I thought he would be, I still love him. He's a huge inspiration to me, and two of his films are responsible for me realizing that I love films more than other people. So I can't wait to talk about this one with you guys. And this was my first time seeing Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair. I realized it released in 2006, but I never knew there was a new 7-minute animated sequence in it, and I got to see it today in one of my favorite sequences in the film. So let's get into it. If you made this far in a video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe right now to share this video to anyone else who's seen Kill Bill and loves the film and wants to hear someone talk about it. And follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Now, let's get into it. So I have a couple things I have to say about Quentin Tarantino and obviously the film I just watched. So obviously, you know, this picture was 4 hours and 48 minutes. It was worth goddamn every minute. I mean, it was one of the best theater experiences I've had this year. Probably the best. I mean, I laughed, I had fun, and for the first time watching Kill Bill, I felt something heavily. Like I was emotionally pulled by what I was watching. And for the first time, maybe ignorantly, I realized that this film is more than just an action film. It is actually a pretty emotionally gravitational film, especially in Volume 2. So, let's get into it. And obviously, for two reasons, I made this video. One, Quentin Tarantino has been in the news quite a lot recently, and he dropped a top 20 list for his 21st century films, and it faced a lot of backlash, and a lot of people used his list and his opinions to discredit him as a filmmaker, which was just blasphemy to me. So I will talk about that lightly before I get into the film. And secondly, it's Kill Bill. Why would I not jump on the opportunity to talk about it right now with you guys? It's one of the greatest films of all time. To me, it's one of the best films of the 21st century, and it would certainly make my top 20 list of the 21st century. So let's get into it. And I'll talk about Quentin Tarantino first because he recently, if you didn't know, dropped his top 20 of the 21st century list. And it was a very personality filled list. It was a very different list than you might see from other filmmakers and other people who love film. It was a very unique list. And the fourth picture on that list was There Will Be Blood. And people didn't like what he had to say about Paul Dano. Essentially, what he said about Paul Dano was if it wasn't for Paul Dano, There Will Be Blood would probably be first on this list. I think Paul Dano is bad in this film, and I think he's the weakest actor in SAG, which obviously I wholeheartedly disagree. I love Paul Dano, and honestly, I think he's one of the most talented actors in the world of film, and obviously in SAG. And obviously, I love him in There Will Be Blood. I think obviously he's not as great as Daniel Day Lewis, because honestly, who is as great as Daniel Day Lewis was in There Will Be Blood? But honestly, I think Paul Dano does a terrific job in that film, and he rivals Daniel Day Lewis in the perfect way. So I thought that was crazy, a crazy statement. But honestly, for people to use that statement to discredit him as a filmmaker is crazy. And before you ask me, Matt, who's discrediting Quentin Tarantino as a filmmaker just because of his opinion? Well, if you go on Twitter, you will see thousands of people discrediting Quentin Tarantino as a filmmaker because of his opinion, which is crazy because essentially Quentin Tarantino is the same person he always was. He was that guy who started off in the video store, who was incredibly knowledgeable, maybe annoyingly so, and he would know every film in the video store, and he would tell you what film to watch if you were looking for a specific genre. He would have these very opinionated feelings, And he's always just been that guy. First and foremost, yes, he is a filmmaker, but first and foremost, he is a guy who loves film probably more than you, probably more than me, and probably more than 99% of the people on this planet. And don't forget, he's seen 99% of the films probably in this world, maybe just 90 because there's been so many films created. So, like, for you guys to be this angry over his opinion is just disgusting to me. And to say, like, there was this tweet that got deleted by the person who tweeted it. I'm pretty sure it was the same guy who saw Dune Part 2 15 to 20 times in the theaters. And he quote tweeted Quentin Tarantino's quote about Paul Dano and said, "Can we stop acting like this dude has ever made a good film?" Like, what the fuck are you talking about? First of all, you could not like Quentin Tarantino. You could not like his films. He could not be one of your favorite filmmakers of all time. That is completely fine. You are allowed to have your own opinion. But to say he's not a good filmmaker or hasn't made any good films would just be a flat out lie. Quentin Tarantino is one of the most influential filmmakers of all time. I mean, he's inspired a full generation of filmmakers, and he's inspired countless amount of dudes and women and females and males, you get it, to go into film school or to pursue the world of film in some capacity. He certainly inspired me to at least try to screenwrite or to expand my knowledge in film and to love film even more so. So, to act like this dude is not a great filmmaker because he had an opinion about a film is crazy. And he shouldn't be scrutinized for having an opinion. And to me, this was a litmus test to why filmmakers don't give their honest opinions anymore about films they love and specifically about films they hate. Because this is the type of backlash they will face. And Quentin Tarantino is an anomaly. One, because he is a tremendous filmmaker and a truly unique and original filmmaker. And secondly, he's an anomaly because he is still willing to give his true and honest opinions about films he doesn't like. And he is more so willingly to tell you why he doesn't like a specific performance in a film. And that's what I like about him because a lot of filmmakers will not do that because they are fearing backlash. And honestly, they aren't wrong to fear backlash because we saw the backlash that Quentin Tarantino got today and this past couple weeks because of his opinion about films. And ultimately, guys, just remember, he is just one of us. He loves film so much that he has these strong opinions about it. And who are we to criticize one of the greatest and one of the most influential filmmakers of all time about his opinion? Now, I wasn't even upset about the Paul Dano opinion. I was obviously in disagreement with him about that opinion. The opinion that I disliked from him the most was his opinion about Scorsese. His opinion of Scorsese was Spielberg made a remake of West Side Story, and when talking about Spielberg's remake of West Side Story, he said that Scorsese has not made an as exhilarating film as Spielberg made with the remake of West Side Story in the 21st century, which I think is complete blasphemy. I think Scorsese has had a terrific 21st century. I think he's made an abundance of great films, and I think Scorsese did not deserve that comment aimed at him. But nonetheless, like I said, Tarantino's allowed to have these opinions because at the end of the day, he's a fan of film and ultimately he's a cinephile or whatever type of phrase you want to attach to someone who ridiculously loves film or is obsessed with film. So that is my feelings on the situation. Do not discredit Quentin Tarantino as a filmmaker. You can disagree with his opinions, but to say he's never made a good film, and honestly, the person who tweeted that deleted it, but there were so many people retweeting and liking it that it gained so much traction on social media. And that was crazy. And it's ridiculous. Pulp Fiction is one of the most influential films of all time. In my opinion, and in my vote, it would probably be voted the greatest film of all time. It is to me. So that is my tangent and rant on Quentin Tarantino and the news that he's been in recently. But nonetheless, I am here for one reason, and I'm talking about Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. Now, if you don't know, now you know. It's in theaters, I think up until this weekend. So with the state of the movie theaters moving forward, and we don't know how long theatrical releases are going to be anymore with the acquisition of Warner Bros., go see this film in theaters because you might not get a chance to see Kill Bill in theaters ever again. So go see it. It is a hell of a time. And if this film got dropped this year, it would be easily the best film of the year by a mile. And that's crazy because this year has been a terrific year for film. So go see it ASAP Rocky because it's the best theater experience we'll have all year. I love the crowd I saw this film with. Everyone has clearly seen this film 10 to 15 times already, but we are reacting like it's the first time we've seen it because we get to see it on the big screen for the first time. Like, I think everyone except for like 2 to 3 people in this theater saw this film for the first time in theaters, and it was a fucking blessing, man. Getting to see, first of all, Kill Bill Volume 1, the great action film that it is on the big screen, is a tremendous pleasure and honestly a blessing. I'm just having a string of great days. And honestly, for anyone who struggles with mental health, and I think a lot of people do, and I think everyone probably does in some capacity or not, stringing together a good 2 to 3 days or having a great 2 out of the past 3 days you've had is just terrific for your mental health. And for me, that's what I had. I went to the Buffalo Bills versus Bengals game on Sunday, which was a terrific game. And then on Tuesday, I got to see Kill Bill in theaters. So I'm just stringing together a great run, guys. And hopefully you guys can too. Whatever. If you haven't treated yourself to a day that you need, treat yourself now and go see Kill Bill if that's what you really want to do. So let's talk about Kill Bill The Whole Bloody Affair. And ironically enough, when I talk about Kill Bill The Whole Bloody Affair, I will be splitting it up into 2 different volumes. Despite it being one whole film to me now, I will be talking about it separately. So I hate to be hypocritical, but that's what I'm going to do. In fear of me just over explaining each scene and sequence in this film, I will just talk about what I love the most from Volume 1 and talk about the new animated sequence. Hopefully, one day I get big on this film content and I create my own Patreon where I can just hang out with my audience and smoke a little weed and commentate over the film as we watch it together, because that is a dream of mine and I love doing that. And obviously, I love watching commentaries from directors who have made certain films, specifically from the Criterion films that I've gotten. So let's talk about Kill Bill Volume 1. In my opinion, this shouldn't be a hot take. Kill Bill Volume 1, aka the first half of Kill Bill The Whole Bloody Affair, is maybe the greatest action film of the 21st century. And it certainly has an argument to be one of the greatest action films of all time. To me, it is a masterpiece, not only in storytelling and original storytelling, but in action filmmaking. The stunt work, the cinematography, the set design, the usage of blood, or therefore the overusage of blood, is perfection. Something I realized that I never realized about this film while watching it in theaters this time around is this film is so blatantly over the top. And usually, when I say that about a film, that is a blatant critique. When I say that about Kill Bill, I mean that as a massive compliment. This film couldn't have worked if it wasn't over the top and extravagant. This film is so over the top and so extra that it almost teeters on the line of corny, except it never crosses over that line, and it just remains over the top and extravagant. And I love how over the top this film is. So I just want to get that out the way. This film is ridiculously over the top, but there's no other way this film could have been than over the top. So listen, Kill Bill Volume 1, in my opinion, one of the greatest action films of all time, and certainly the greatest action film of the 21st century. There hasn't been a better action sequence or action sequences since this film. Yes, I love John Wick, and there's a plethora of other action films I love this century: Mad Max, Fury Road, Furiosa, John Wick number 2, John Wick number 3, John Wick number 4. But in my opinion, Kill Bill Volume 1 holds at least 2 to 3 of the greatest action sequences of the 21st century. We'll get into that. And obviously, I love Alien. Obviously, who can't if you love film? Aliens is great as well. Terminator 1, Terminator number 2. Linda Hamilton leading Terminator 1 and Terminator number 2. And then obviously, everyone's favorite action star, Sigourney Weaver, leading Alien number 1, Aliens, and then obviously Aliens 3 and 4. But with that being said, depends on the day, and that happens a lot when it comes to me ranking films and talking about my favorite films. I think I could talk myself into Kill Bill, the whole entirety of the franchise, or the whole film, Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, is the greatest action film led by a female. I think Uma Thurman gives honestly one of the most underrated performances by any actress, and for my vote, gives the best performance by any actress in the 21st century. Which some people might be like, whoa, slow down there, Matty boy. But I think that's evidently true. I mean, think of the people who could have played this role. I can't think of many. The person that came to my mind right away was Charlize Theron, which I think is a very underrated actress. I think she has some very polarizing performances. specifically Monster and Mad Max Fury Road. But honestly, the rest of the action films that she starred in previously have been underwhelming. And I really don't think she could have pulled off the role as Beatrix the Bride or as Black Mamba so brilliantly as Uma Thurman did. And another person that came to my mind who I think is maybe the greatest actress of all time, Emma Stone, which I quickly said to myself, no, she can't, because she's never been in an action film. And first of all, she's never led an action film. Yes, she's been in Zombieland, but not really an action film. It's really like a comedy horror film, not really even a horror film. So I considered Charlize Theron could have played this role, but not brilliantly as Uma Thurman did in this film. Not only in Volume 1, but in Volume 2. Obviously, the first half of The Whole Bloody Affair, second half of The Whole Bloody Affair. So I think Uma Thurman not only gives a tremendously brilliant action performance, she is brilliant in the stunts, and she is incredibly believable as Beatrix. Through the training sequences with Pai Mei, through the action sequences with the Crazy 88, Vernita Green, Bud, and obviously Elle Driver, and eventually Bill. She is terrific in every scene and sequence. But the thing that stuck out the most for me while watching The Whole Bloody Affair was how brilliant she is in the scenes where she doesn't have any dialogue, where she's just strictly using her eyes. The usage of her emotions with no words is brilliant. Her face has 1,000 words, and to me, that is a extra mile that she goes through with her performance in this film and these films. She's terrific using no dialogue to get her point across and to get her emotions across. And obviously, while watching this film for the first time in theaters, her performance emotionally was hyper extended to me and hyper polished to me because her performances in the sequences where she's in the church and she gets her best day of her life up until that point upended by her ex-husband or ex-boyfriend or her ex-mentor, whatever you want to call Bill, is terrific as she's laying on the ground and looking Bill in the face as he's about to shoot her. And then obviously the scene of her waking up in the hospital and she is mortified. She realizes she's been in a coma for 4 years, and she also realizes that she's been getting raped. Sorry, there's no other word I can use there. She's been getting raped and sexually abused by Buck and a plethora of other men who Buck has been charging $75 a fuck. Which I'm not laughing at the scenario, but it's absurdist, the scenario that she has to live through. And honestly, I can't say it's too woefully unrealistic because there are some sick and demented fucking people out there that probably would do the same thing that Buck's character was doing. So her emotion in that scene is unbelievable. And in this role, she has to be ridiculously believable because she is asked to be this person who got stripped of her life. And not only got stripped of her life, she got stripped of 4 years of her life. She got stripped of being a mother. She got her soon to be husband murdered. She got her friends and family murdered. And ultimately, she got innocent people murdered. All because she wanted to start a new life and move on from her past life because she realizes that she can't raise her baby in this world of assassins and this world of murders. She realizes that a baby and a kid shouldn't be raised in that environment. So she finally grows up and moves on. Instead, Bill, because he can't handle being left and he can't handle being abandoned, he decides to ruin her life and kill her in the moment, or at least put her in a coma, but certainly killing the rest of her friends and her family and upending her life that she wanted to start for herself. And obviously, when she wakes up in bed, she realizes and thinks that her daughter is dead because obviously she's not pregnant anymore. So obviously, I'm assuming everyone watching this video has seen the film, and eventually we find out in the big twist at the end of Volume 2 that her kid is still alive. But nonetheless, Uma Thurman is terrific in the emotional moments in this film, and to me, I never realized how brilliant she was in those moments until watching it on the big screen. So she's brilliant in the emotional moments, and she's specifically brilliant in the big twist at the end of Volume 2. That moment where she just breaks out into tears as she realizes that Bill has been raising the daughter that she thought was dead is brilliant. And obviously, she has to be believable in the revenge that she has to go on. Because not only is she out for revenge for the people that Bill killed and the Deadly Vipers killed in the church during that wedding rehearsal day, she is out for revenge for taking 4 years away from my life and for assumingly killing the daughter that I was looking to raise in this new life I was starting to begin for myself. So Uma Thurman gives, to me, one of the greatest performances by any actress ever, and to me, my vote, she would certainly be in the top five, if not number one, for the greatest performances by any actress in the 21st century. So let's talk a little bit more about Volume 1. So obviously, we get a new animated sequence in Volume 1, or the first half of the whole bloody affair, with the theatrical release we get. And obviously, before we get into this animated sequence, first of all, I have to talk about Oren Ishii's introduction in Kill Bill. To me, and I think a lot of people who watch this film, Oren Ishii is one of the most badass characters in fictional history, certainly of the 21st century. She is so fucking cool, and she's probably the most likable member of the Deadly Vipers. And she similarly went through what seemingly our protagonist Beatrix is going through at the moment. She had to lead this revenge saga against the people that murdered her mom and her dad while she had to watch underneath the bed, which we get to see brilliantly through this animated sequence. By the way, which I think that anime sequence that Quentin Tarantino so boldly went with in this film. First of all, I think the choice to have an animated sequence in this action film that you create is fucking unbelievable, and it pays off mightily. It is one of the most bold creative choices I've seen a filmmaker make. And if it didn't work out, it would be a huge detriment to the film. And luckily for Quentin Tarantino and everyone who was involved, it worked out perfectly. The animated sequence with O-Ren Ishii and the ultimate introduction we get to O-Ren Ishii in that sequence is tremendous. I mean, it is really wonderful to watch, and it makes you feel sympathy towards the character O-Ren Ishii, and honestly, you really don't feel sympathy for any other of the characters or the people in the Deadly Vipers or the other assassins working for Bill. So I really love the animated sequence. Getting to see O-Ren Ishii underneath the bed is heartbreaking and captivating in a magnitude of different ways. Watching her father fight off these assassins who are sent from the boss Matsumoto, and then ultimately for him to win against those assassins and then get stabbed in the back by Pretty Riki is heartbreaking, yet so deeply cool to watch, because up until this new version I thought Pretty Riki was cool, and then we get to find out who Pretty Riki is, and we find out he's actually a sick, demented human being, which shouldn't be surprising, but not. I was shocked to see how sick and demented he was, but nonetheless, obviously seeing O-Ren Ishii watch her father die and then have to watch her mother get thrown onto the bed and stabbed through the mattress that she's laying under and watch the blood flow onto her face is horrifying, especially when you put yourself in her shoes. So it's a great origin story, and it's one of the greatest introductions to any fictional character I can remember. And I think O-Ren Ishii is one of the coolest characters in the world of film, and honestly in the world of action films, specifically in the 21st century. And obviously, I think Lucy Liu is terrific. But the new animated 7-minute sequence we get is worth the wait, and it's worth the price of admission alone. So that is the newest thing about this picture. There's a couple other tiny changes, but that's the newest thing about this installment of The Whole Bloody Affair, the new animated sequence. And it's like I said, it's worth every fucking penny. So what we get in the new animated sequence is we get to see O-Ren Ishii kill and go after Pretty Riki, aka the guy who kills her father and kicks the cigarette into the alcohol, which lights the room ablaze where her dead mother and her dead father and O-Ren Ishii are. And it's a terrific scene. But we get to see O-Ren Ishii go after Pretty Riki. And we get to see this action sequence between O-Ren Ishii and Pretty Riki, where O-Ren Ishii is sitting on top of the elevator, where Pretty Riki and his companions enter, and she's sitting on top of the elevator, and she opens up the hatch, she kills his two companions, and she looks Pretty Riki in the eye and says, "Do you remember me?" And it's a great scene. We see Pretty Riki nervous, but we also see Pretty Riki almost defeat O-Ren Ishii, and we get to see Pretty Riki say to O-Ren Ishii what he wished he did to O-Ren Ishii's mother, and what he will do to O-Ren Ishii right now if he beats her. And ultimately, it's sickening, it's horrifying. Basically, he tells O-Ren Ishii that, "I wish I was able to rape your mother and kill her, but instead things got in the way and Matsumoto killed her. But now things won't get in the way here. I will rape and kill you right here, right now." So not only does he make Pretty Riki just sick and demented human, but he is no longer cool to the people who previously watched Kill Bill Volume 1. He is just actually this unexplicable human being. So, as someone who I thought was really cool, he's seemingly not cool. So don't meet your heroes, folks. Um, and that scene is really cool because ultimately O-Ren Ishii defeats Pretty Riki in the most animated and anime way. I won't spoil how she defeats Pretty Riki, but go see it for yourself. So I love the anime sequence. I think it's one of the most bold and creative sequences in the world of film, and obviously through the 21st century. So the anime sequence in Kill Bill Volume 1 not only stands the testament of time, I think it's one of the most bold things any filmmaker has ever done. So obviously I love the characters in this film, and specifically I love Oren Ishii and Lucy Liu as Oren Ishii. I think Oren Ishii is terrific. Now let's talk about the characters, because honestly, Quentin Tarantino is one of the greatest screenplay writers of all time, and it's honestly explicitly proven through the Kill Bill franchise. The characters we get in the Kill Bill franchise not only are mysterious and lore filled and honestly badass in their villainy and in their revenge filled arcs, but the characters just rock and they're so well written. In the first volume, in the first half of the whole bloody affair, we get to meet Vernita Green, Vivica A. Fox, who was this member of the Deadly Vipers who had her hand in ruining and killing everyone that Beatrix loved. And then obviously the scene we get to start the film between Vernita Green and Beatrix is tremendous. I love that scene. I think it's, first of all, brilliantly directed. I think it's tremendous action filmmaking, the stunt work, and obviously the cinematography and the unique traits to that sequence is brilliant. And I think Vivica A. Fox and Beatrix do a tremendous job in the unique scenario that those characters are thrusted into. And to me, one of the great things about that sequence is the end of it, when Beatrix kills Vivica A. Fox character Vernita Green, and Beatrix has to explain to Vernita Green's daughter that this bitch had it coming, and in 20 years you still feel some type of way, you can come to me and we can settle it. And to me, that is awesome. And I loved how Beatrix was so unremorseful, because Vernita Green had a hand, at least Beatrix thinks in the moment, in killing her daughter and killing everyone that she loved. So for Vernita Green to be flaunting her daughter to try to save her own life is embarrassing, because, bitch, you ruined my life, and to me, you killed my daughter, bitch. So what the fuck are you, and who the fuck are you to tell me that don't kill me, I have a daughter? Bitch, you didn't think twice when I was pregnant and about to get married. So I love that scene. And obviously, the greatest thing about that scene to me is when Beatrix leaves the house, this blood filled house now, in this destroyed house. She enters this car that says Pussy Wagon on it. The keychain says Pussy Wagon on it. And you're just left with so many questions as a viewer that are soon to be answered. But you're like, why does Beatrix have a car named Pussy Wagon? And and then you get to see Beatrix cross off the names on the list. The second name, which is Vernita Green. And then you get to see Oren Ishii cross off already. So you're like, hold up. She's already killed another person? So now you're asking so many questions that are just continuously pulling you more and more into this film and ultimately making you escape more. So I think it's brilliant storytelling, and I think the opening of this film is terrific. Both of the opening of Beatrix laying on the ground and getting shot in the head, and then Vernita Green fight sequence, and then ultimately the sequence in the hospital where we get to see Buck get his just full ending to his life, which is awesome. So I love the beginning of this film. And obviously, everyone's favorite part of this film is the Crazy AZ-8 sequence. But I think an underrated part of this film, and an underrated aspect of the entirety franchise, is when we get introduced to Hattori Hanzo and his pal in the sushi bar. First of all, Uma Thurman, we all said, and I said in the beginning of this video, she gives a terrific performance, but she is explicitly beautiful in that sequence and in that scene. I mean, unreal. She looks cinematically beautiful, and obviously she's just beautiful as a human being, but she looks ridiculously beautiful in that sequence. So I love that part of the film, and I love getting introduced to Hattori Hanzo, because we find out just enough about him, but we're also leaving our time with him in the film with a lot to expand on with our imagination, which I love. And I think that's one of Quentin Tarantino's best traits as a filmmaker, is he gives us a lot to learn and to know about his characters that he creates for us, but also he leaves out just enough to expand upon with our imaginations, which I think is essential to great filmmaking. Yes, you want to give us enough knowledge, but you don't want to hold our hand and give us too much knowledge to where we can no longer use our imagination. And I think Quentin Tarantino excels mightily throughout the entirety of his filmography doing that. He leaves just enough in doubt and just enough to the unknown that you have to use your imagination. Sometimes using your imagination is better than a lot of the other things that are done in filmmaking. So I love the Hattori Hanzo scene, and obviously I love the scene where Hattori Hanzo finds out that she's there for a reason and she knows who he is. And I love that. But when Beatrix is taken to the attic and Hattori Hanzo is showing her the swords that he's created, and she tells him why she is here. She's here because she needs a sword to take out revenge on her old student. And Hattori Hanzo knows who his former student is, and he goes over to this fogged up mirror and he starts to write out Bill. And then as soon as he starts to dot his I, he pulls away from the eye, and it's one of the coolest scenes in the movie. And it's crazy because somehow a dude writing Bill on a fogged up window is one of the coolest scenes in the movie. But it's it's undoubtedly one of the coolest scenes in the movie. Like, it's just a weird trait to the film that is just so beautifully done. So I love that. I love the Hattori Hondo scene, and I think that could be overlooked because the rest of this film is chaos. And now, obviously, we leave Okinawa and we leave our time with Hotaru Hanzo, but we move to Tokyo, a one-way ticket to Tokyo, as Beatrix says. And here we get some of the greatest action filmmaking of all time, in my opinion, the greatest action sequence in the world of film, and the greatest action sequence of the 21st century. First of all, we get to Tokyo, and immediately we are thrown into seeing Uma Thurman in that forever memorable outfit, the black and yellow jumpsuit and the black and yellow motorcycle that she's driving around Tokyo. And it's tremendous. And then obviously we're introduced to Sophia Fatale, who is a close companion to Lucy Liu's character, Ren Ishii, and it's tremendous because Sophie Fatale was on the scene of the crime the day that Beatrix had her life upended. And not only was she there, she took a goddamn phone call as soon as Beatrix was about to get shot in the head. So now Beatrix realizes, hey, not only am I here for Ren Ishii, I'm here for Sophia Fatale, and I'm gonna kill her ass, or at least chop her limbs off one by one, because this bitch had the audacity to pick up a fucking phone call and speak in Japanese when I'm about to get shot in the head. And I honestly, that scene is kind of funny because it's funny how Beatrix was about to get shot in the head, but she remembers so much about that day that she realizes that this bitch was about to, not only about to, she answered the fucking call while I'm about to get shot in the head. So I love that, and it speaks to how with revenge she is. So we obviously get to see that terrific scene in the restaurant where Oren Ishii, Sophie Vitale, and the Crazy 88 are just vermits. They are being rude to the waiting staff. They're asking for pepperoni pizzas when this restaurant damn well doesn't serve pepperoni pizzas, and they don't care. They just want to get pepperoni pizzas, and you're going to have to find a way to bring it to us. And I love that scene. And then obviously we get the scene, the famous scene with Sophie Vitale in the bathroom. Beatrix is in the stall changing to get ready for what's about to ensue. And then she sees Sophie Vitale pick up her phone and take a call. And then ultimately she gets filled with revenge. And that's where the madness ensues. She brings Sophie Vitale out to the dance floor and calls for Ren Ishii. Crazy 88 and Ren Ishii open up the sliding doors and they see Beatrix and they see Sophie Vitale in the hands of Beatrix. And ultimately, chaos ensues as Beatrix slices off Sophie Vitale's arm with the Hattori Hanzo sword. And it's brilliant. And right there, right then, you know shit is about to go down. And one of the major changes in the whole bloody affair is in the US version, in case you didn't know, the Crazy 88 battle sequence was so bloody that if it was not in black and white, the film would have to be changed to NC-17, and Quentin Tarantino wanted to just make the film rated R, so he changed it to black and white. In the whole bloody affair, since the rules have changed, he has officially made it in colorized, so you get to see all the blood in its glory, and it's fucking tremendous. It is so insane to watch everything in color, and obviously I love the black and white sequences regardless, but seeing that whole fight sequence in color is just tremendous to watch. All that blood and all of its extravagance and all of its over the top nature is beautiful because people really don't bleed like this. But would you want to see anyone bleed any other way in chaos? I mean, the amount of limbs that are cut off in the Crazy 88 scene and sequence is fucking incredible. Um, it is so funny. And obviously, in this scene, we already know how much of a badass Beatrix is. But in this scene, we truly get to see how badass of a fucking character Beatrix is. She effortlessly and honestly tactfully goes through the Crazy 88. The only people in the Crazy 88 that give her a problem are Gogo and Oren Ishii. I mean, everyone else was food and pickings for her. I mean, there's so many brilliant sequences in that Crazy 88 fight sequence. Obviously, the one we got on the dance floor is terrific. The amount of people she cuts limbs off, and ultimately, that little helicopter she's on the ground to cut everyone's ankles and foots off is fucking amazing. But obviously, the best scene and sequence in that whole fight sequence is when the lights cut out and we get to see the silhouette of her fighting. And it's fucking peak, bro. How, like, I've dabbled in screenwriting, right? And then I think to myself as I'm writing screenwriter, which is probably an insecure and wrong thing for me to do. I'm like, how can I top some of these filmmakers? Like Quentin Tarantino, how the fuck did you write and create these scenes and sequences out of your brain? Yes, I know some of his films are pulled from his greatest inspirations, but nonetheless, a lot of what takes place in this film is pure originality. And that is certainly said with the Crazy 88 fight sequence. So, the Crazy 88 fight sequences terrific when it comes to the choreography of the fight sequences, the stunt work of everyone involved, and obviously the cinematography. But the most important thing about those fight sequences during the Crazy 88 sequence has to be the terrific score and soundtrack that amplifies the fight sequences. RZA does a terrific job composing this entire film. And then obviously Ennio Morricone does a terrific job here, and obviously he's not the main composer here because a lot of his famous works are used for this film, but nonetheless, the scores that are used from Ennio Morricone's previous works just amplifies this film, and specifically the Crazy 88 sequence so mightily. And I think the Crazy 8 sequence probably works just as much without the Ennio Morricone score, but man, can you really watch those scenes and sequences without that? It's just so perfectly done. So I can't get enough of the Crazy 88 sequence. I love the scene where she's obviously fighting this young teenager and she cuts his sword in half and she turns around and spanks him with his sword and says, "That's what you get for messing with the Yakuza. Now go back to your mom." And then she walks out of the room that she just did that to that poor boy. As he's running out, she yells at everyone that she's just brutally defeated and said, "If you are lucky to still have your life, leave right now, but don't take your limbs. Those limbs are now forever mine." And that could have easily come off as corny. And every time I watch this film, I'm like, how is this not corny? And it still remains uncorny, if that's even a fucking word. And it's so fucking cool. And then obviously the famous part of that scene, which is so funny, where Sophie Vitale is on the ground with all those Japanese men and the Crazy 88 members. And she says to Sophie Vitale, "Except for you, Sophie, you stay right there." And it's awesome. And then you get to see all these people crawling out of this restaurant with their limbless bodies. And then you get to see the restaurant manager walk in and scream and said, and ultimately say, "What the fuck has just happened?" So I love that whole sequence in the film. It's one of the great action sequences of our time, and you really can't find better action filmmaking than the one we get in this film with the Crazy 88 sequence. And obviously, the great cherry on top of this film and the great ending to this film is the sequence we get between Oren Ishii and Beatrix in the snow. It is masterful. It is a fucking masterpiece. Like, it's just a masterpiece. We get to see a samurai fight in the snow. Like, I don't think people understand that is masterful. And then we get to see not only true, tremendously beautiful women, we get to see two great action stars in Uma Thurman and Lucy Liu just completely engage in this amazing final battle to end this film, or at least the first half of the whole buddy affair. So I eat that film up in that part of the film. I eat that part of the film up so much. I mean, not only do we get to see Beatrix ultimately show her great admiration and respect for Renishi, because ultimately they are similar to each other. They are the most relatable characters in the film. Because yes, she's gonna kill Renishi because bitch, you had a part in taking away my life and my kid. But ultimately, bitch, you understand where I'm coming from. You went on a revenge killing spree, and you going on this revenge killing spree led led you to where you are right now. So it is great, and it's great to see how emotional Beatrix, aka Uma Thurman, gets in this scene, going against Oren Ishii, because there are moments where she cries fighting Oren Ishii, and I've never really noticed that up until now. So not only do we get to see Beatrix have this great sense of admiration towards Oren Ishii, we get to see a beautiful choreographed samurai fight, and I couldn't get over how great that sequence is. The footprints in the snow, the sound design of that scene, the beautiful score overlaying the scene, and then obviously the unique creative choices that are taking place during that scene. We get to see that beautiful Japanese water bamboo thing. I don't even know what it's called, but it adds so much to the scene. Um, this I don't even know what it's called. I wish I knew what it was called. I should be more informed. But you guys know what I'm talking about. The thing that goes like this and like this during the huge swings of momentum during that fight. It's beautifully choreographed. There's It's just really fun. It feels like a real fight. It feels like a real samurai battle. And yeah, I mean, and obviously one of the best things about Beatrix and her character is she doesn't have plot armor. She goes through it. She gets her ass beat on occasion. Not even on occasion. In every fight she's in, she gets her ass beat. Yes, she's going to win, but she gets her ass beat. And she is taking it in this battle against Oranishi. And the only time she really doesn't get her ass beat is in the Crazy 88 battle. She gets her ass beat in Vernita Green fight a little bit, even though she wins. She gets her ass beat in the Ishii fight despite her winning. She gets her ass beat in the exchange she has with Bud. She gets her ass beat in the exchange she has with Ella Driver, except she ultimately finds a way to win. And it's just terrific stuff. It really is terrific stuff. And that's one of the things that makes this film so great and her character so great, is that Quentin Tarantino realizes that she can't be a character that is hard to injure or hard to hurt, because she gets hurt and she faces the brink of death so many times in this film, and that's what makes her story and her character so great. So I love the Oren Ishii battle, the footprints in the snow, the splattering of the blood onto the snow, and then obviously the ending to it, where Beatrix descalps her with her Hattori Hanzo sword. And obviously the great start to that fight is when um, Oren Ishii's like, "What sword is that?" And Beatrix says, "Hattori Hanzo's sword." And even Oren Ishii in this final fight for her life acknowledges, like, holy shit, a Hattori Hanzo sword? And it just adds so much more to the lore of Hattori Hanzo. So, man, I fucking love Kill Bill Volume 1, or aka the first half of the whole bloody affair. And obviously, a great ending to this film is where we get to see Sophie Vitale in the hands of Bill after she just left the hospital. And Bill's asking her, "Do you know why she would just let you live?" And Sophie Vitale tells Bill verbatim what Beatrix told her. And ultimately, Beatrix got out of Sophie where Bill is, where Bud is, and where Elle Driver is. And it's brilliant. We get to see Beatrix chop off another arm of Sophie, and it's awesome. It's awesome. It's a terrific way to end the film, and it's a terrific cliffhanger for what's to come. And obviously, another creative choice I love in the first half of the whole bloody affair in Volume 1 is that we never get to see Bill's face until the second half. So that's my opinion on Volume 1, aka the first half of the whole bloody affair. I fucking love Volume 1. It's my favorite part of Kill Bill still. And man, I can't wait to buy this film physically, because I will be watching it habitually whenever I want, because I don't have to rely on streaming apps. So, Volume 1 is the greatest action film of all time to me. I think it's absolutely terrific and riveting and captivating, both emotionally and in its extravagance and in its spectacle. And I love every character in it, whether they're in the complete wrong, whether they are complete scumbags, or whether they're in the complete right and getting their revenge. So, Kill Bill Volume 1, the greatest action film of all time to me, and it was a huge big bang moment for me. Now, let's talk about the second half of Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair. So, my whole life, really, up until recently, I was indifferent on Volume 2. When I first saw it, I gave it a 4. I thought it was a weird pace change to what the first film was, and that was my opinion of it as a teenager. When I saw it again in my early 20s, I'm 24 now, by the way. When I saw it again in my 20s, I'd moved it up to 4.5. Despite the pace change, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really goddamn good, but not quite a 5 star. But I watched it again recently, a year ago, and I moved it to a 5 out of 5 because I think it's the perfect pace change, and I think the characters we get in this volume 2 installment, or in the second half of the whole bloody affair, might be the best characters we get throughout the entirety of the film, outside of Oren Ishii. Because what we get Daryl Hannah as L Driver. We get Michael Madsen, one of the most criminally underrated actors, as Bud. And then we get David Carradine, habitually known as one of the worst actors to ever live, gives his best performance in Kill Bill Volume 2. And it's terrific. And it's this much needed tone change that works because, yes, this film has a lot of action, and yes, it's still ridiculously brutal, but it relies more on the emotions of the character of Beatrix, and it doesn't rely on the actions and the action sequences that take place in the first film. Because honestly, it just relies more on the brutality and the emotional, gratifying, and magnetic pull of Beatrix's character. So, let's talk about Volume 2. First of all, Michael Madsen, rest in peace. I am glad I was able to give him flowers in one way or another when I revisited Reservoir Dogs, one of my favorite films of all time. I was really glad to be able to give him my flowers because he is terrific in Reservoir Dogs. He might be even more so terrific in Kill Bill Volume 2. Now, he is more iconic as Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs, but he is so goddamn great as Bud in Kill Bill Volume 2. First of all, how we're introduced to him. He is this bouncer at a strip club who is just going through it. He is vastly different than the rest of the Deadly Vipers. Oren Ishii, as horrible or as flawed as a character she might be, she is in tremendous power. She is leading Japan when it comes to gang-fueled activities. And then obviously Vernita Green, Vivica A. Fox character, she was a mother who is now a stay-at-home wife who has completely changed her life around despite meeting her ultimate fate. And then obviously Bill, who we don't see his face until the volume 2, he is rich and he's still very much thriving in his life and he's still eating tremendously. And then Elle Driver, we don't know exactly what she's doing in her life. We assume she's still an assassin, but she is still rich. And then we meet Bud, and he's just this low life who's living in this RV slash trailer park home, who's just going through it as this bouncer at a strip club, who is getting berated by his boss for being late, despite no one being in the fucking strip club. We get to see him be pretty much laid off and fired, and his boss tell him, "Hey, you don't show up unless I call you, and I tell you when to come in," after he does a line of coke. And then obviously before he has to leave for the day and not get paid, he has to clean up the shit water infested bathroom that Rocket tells him about, the stripper in the strip club. So it's just, he's going through it. Then obviously we get to see Bill's face for the first time when we find out Bud is his brother, and Bill is telling him about, "Hey man, Beatrix, she's not dead. Watch out for her. And if she comes for you, be ready because she's out for revenge." And then we get to find out Bud is like, "Hey man, she deserves every amount of revenge she's looking for." And ultimately, despite him feeling that way, he's like, "Hey, that bitch deserves to get it too." And it's just great because we never really find out why everyone hates her or believes she deserves to meet the fate that she does. Like, on one hand, Bud probably believes she deserves the fate that she deserves because Bill is his brother and she broke Bill's heart. But we really never understood why Oren Ishii and Vernita Green and Elle Driver believe that she's a bitch and she deserved what happened to her that day. Which is great because you get to formulate your imagination of to why they might feel that way. Obviously, we find out Elle Driver is pretty much jealous of her, but Oren Ishii and Vernita Green's drive there is pretty much left unknown. But nonetheless, Bud's character is so goddamn good. We've seen Beatrix battle adversity in the first volume, in the first half of the whole bloody affair. But when we get to see Bud, we get to see him return from him cleaning up the shit infested waters at the strip club. We find out that Beatrix has been waiting for him underneath his RV and van. And ultimately, Bud, despite him being and living tremendously bad, he is still an assassin at heart, and he knows something is up. And as Beatrix is storming into his RV, she gets shot in the chest. Not by a shotgun bullet, luckily. She gets shot with rock salt. And it's awesome to watch. And I know I've been saying that a lot because there's really no other way to describe things in this movie than saying it's awesome to watch. Because not only do we get to see our character and our protagonist go through it and ultimately be stuck in a tremendously awful situation, we get to see the tremendous monologue from Bud and the tremendous score overlaying the monologue. We get to see Bud spit this disgusting, dip-filled spit on her face after Beatrix spits on him. And then we get to see her buried alive. And then we get to see Bud have this conversation with Elle Driver on the phone about, hey, guess what I have? Not only do I have Beatrix and I'm about to kill her in a brutal way, I have Hattori Hanzo's sword. And guess what? It's a priceless thing, but if you give me $1,000,000, it's yours. And they have their agreement and they agree to meet the next day. But then we get to see the great sequence of Bud and his friend, who we don't know the name of, or at least I don't, bury Beatrix alive. And we get this great scene of when Beatrix wakes up from this slightly induced coma that Bud put her in. And we get to see her struggle as Bud and his friend talk about her. And there's this disgusting line by Bud where he's like, isn't this the prettiest piece of blonde pussy you ever seen in your life? And his fat, short friend who's been digging this hole for him says, I've seen better. And it's so funny, and he has no right to comment on her attractiveness, which I think is the point of the scene. It's really great. Yes, we've seen her battle adversity in this film, in this franchise before, but we've never seen her scared, and for this first time, we get to see her scared as she's getting buried alive. And as Bud is about to pick her up and put her into the coffin that he's built for her, she's struggling. And Bud gets on one knee and takes out this pepper spray and says, hey, I was going to give you this flashlight, but bitch, if you keep struggling, I will put this straight into your eyeball, and then you will be blind. And then you are fucked. So, bitch, stop struggling, and you will get this flashlight, and you might have a chance. But if you keep struggling, I will make you blind, and you are fucked. And then obviously she's like, hey, bury me alive with this flashlight. And it's kind of awesome because Bud gives her a chance to live. Because as much as he thinks she deserves the fate that she's going to get here, he also thinks she deserves the right to fight for her life yet again. It's really awesome. And it speaks to the originality of the film. So I love that part. And then she gets buried alive, obviously, and we get to see her trainings with Pai Mei. Pai Mei is so funny and so unique, and it's clear Quentin is paying clear homages to Japanese cinema, and I love the homages he's paying because he clearly loves Japanese cinema so much, and he brilliantly pays homages through the characters of Pai Mei, Hattori Hanzo, and a couple other characters like Oren Ishii, whether it's through the animated sequences or whether it's through the live action sequences. So I love Pai Mei in this film. He's so funny and he's so brutal, yet he is a terrific mentor into the person he wants to build. So Pai Mei is terrific. He's one of my favorite aspects of this film, and that sequence we get between Beatrix and Pai Mei and her training sequences are awesome. Her learning how to 3-inch punch, her ultimately learning the 5 pressure point kill is awesome. And then obviously the scene where her hand is so broken and so numb that she's struggling to eat that she tries to eat with her hand, and then Pai Mei throws her ball off the table and says, you want to eat like a dog? Then get out of here. Get on the ground and eat like a dog. You eat like a human. Use and pick up those sticks. And ultimately, she wills her way into picking up the sticks, and you see, for the first time, Pai Mei be happy. So it's awesome. It's really fucking awesome. And then you find out how much, despite Beatrix goes through hell with Pai Mei, she finds out how much she respects Pai Mei and how much she loves Pai Mei. So that's really awesome. Pai Mei is a really great character, and it's another character that has so much lore added to him, but also there's just enough lore left out that your imagination goes into so many different places when you think about the character of Pai Mei. Volume 2 is really great. Obviously, we get the Ellie Driver sequence with Bud, where she shows up with the money, but ultimately she has the black mamba in the bag, and as he's getting ready to open the bag, he starts pulling the money out, and ultimately he sees a black mamba that bites him in the face, and we find out that black mamba is the most dangerous animal in Africa, despite it co-inhabiting with lions, elephants, and rhinoceroses, and things of that nature. So it's a great scene. That scene, I love watching that every time. Michael Madsen's struggling on the floor as he's just got bit by this black mamba. And then we get to find out why Ellie Driver just did that to him, because she doesn't believe that a person like him and a low-life redneck piece of shit like him should have had the right to kill a great warrior and potentially the greatest warrior she's ever known in Beatrix. She doesn't believe that Bud had the right to kill her the way he did, or he shouldn't even have been able to kill her. So I love that. So as much as she doesn't like Beatrix, she also has this tremendous respect for Beatrix, which is seemingly unanimous amongst the rest of the Deadly Vipers. So I love that. I mean, there's so many things to love, but there's so many brilliant character things done in this film that remind you that it's just brilliant writing we're watching unfold here. And then we get to see the great scene between Beatrix and Elle Driver in the RV in the AKA trailer park home that Bud lived in. We get to see Beatrix, first of all, break out and rise up from the dirt through the 3-inch punch as she 3-inch punches her way out of the coffin. And then we get to see her walk all the way back to Bud's trailer park home. And she meets Elle Driver, and they ensue in this great battle. They fucking completely destroy the trailer park home. And then ultimately, the whole film, this whole half of the film, we are told by Bud explicitly that he sold and pawned off his Hattori Hanzo sword for $250. And then ultimately, after Beatrix is thrown into his room, she realizes, no, he didn't pawn it off. It's still right there. And then we get to see the brilliant transcribed sword that Bill gifted Bud, saying, "To the only man I ever loved, your brother Bill." And she uses that sword to ultimately defeat Elle Driver, except she doesn't use the sword. Except as soon as they touch swords in a heated battle, she plucks Elle Driver's only eye out, and there we get to see Elle Driver just completely lose her mind and just squirm and scramble all over the place, screaming, "You bitch! I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill you!" It's so awesome. And it's the perfect ending to that scene, and it's the perfect way to kill all the Deadly Vipers. And then we finally get to see her go after the man that she's been trying to go after and get her revenge on in Bill. And it's amazing. First, we get introduced to Esteban, who not only is terrific as Esteban, and not only is a little bit unsensitive because he is a white man playing a Mexican dude, but I would be lying if I said he wasn't brilliant. Michael Parks as Esteban is terrific. I thought he was Mexican, and yeah, he is not. He is so good. He's been in a lot of Tarantino films. He is so good here as, first of all, the sheriff who finds Beatrix when she is on the scene of the crime where her day and her life got upended. But he's great in that role, but he's also terrifically great as Esteban. So I loved that scene quite a bit. And ultimately, she finds out where Bill is from Esteban, who Esteban is like this fatherly figure to Bill. And we find out enough lore there, but we also have enough left for our imaginations to expand on. So another great trait, another great example of that. And then ultimately we get to Bill, and then ultimately we get to the big reveal. We get to this resort where Bill has been staying and living at, and Beatrix enters the apartment. She turns the corner with the gun cocked and ready to shoot, and she turns the corner and she sees something so emotionally devastating that she starts to cry on impact. She sees her daughter alive alongside Bill, and they're pointing plastic guns at her. And I said this while watching it and thinking it. It might be one of the greatest gaslights by any fictional character ever, because Bill knows that she's there to kill him, but he's just gaslighting the shit out of her and preventing her from killing him right there, right then, because he's ultimately using his daughter as a shield in the moment. And it's so fucking good, and it's such a great scene, and it's an emotionally gratifying scene. It's uberly magnetic because yes, this is an action-filled film, and it strives during its action sequences, but the most underrated aspect of this film is when it gets emotionally potent, and it certainly gets emotionally potent as soon as we see Beatrix realize that her daughter's still alive, and it's awesome. And for the first time, we get to see Beatrix be a mother, and we get to see these brilliant conversations between her and Bill. We get to see this great scene where Bill is making these sandwiches, and he's telling the story about how Bibi, the daughter of Beatrix and Bill, stomped on her goldfish, took out her goldfish out of the bowl, and squished it. And it's this brilliant scene. It's really a scene that kind of calms you and soothes you. It's weird. The way he cuts off the crust of the sandwich for BB, the way he makes the sandwich, the way he takes the big knife and scoops the mayonnaise out the jar. It's really brilliant stuff. And I love getting to see Beatrix, the character that Uma Thurman plays, be a mother for a little bit and to get away from this violence that she's been so brilliantly after for the entirety of this film. So I love seeing her be a mother and interacting with BB. I love seeing BB and Beatrix cuddle with each other while they watch a film together, and it doesn't matter how long the film is, according to Beatrix. I just want to be a mother and just cuddle with my daughter and live with her for a little bit because I got stripped of that for 4 years and I thought she was dead for 4 years. So that is amazing to watch. Then ultimately we get the big final show off and showdown between Bill and Beatrix. We get to hear this great monologue from Bill after he shoots this truth serum into Beatrix, and he shoots it into her after she tries to pick up the sword, after she comes down from hanging out with her daughter. Because ultimately, yes, she is happy her daughter's alive, but bitch, I'm here for one reason: to kill you, motherfucker. And I love that despite how much she was a mother for a little bit there, she never left the mindset of killing Bill. So that's fucking awesome. I use this word 1,000 times, but it's really awesome. And we get this great monologue with Bill talking about Superman and how it's not really a great comic, but he loves Superman because ultimately he is Superman. He isn't Clark Kent. Like, we have to see other people be Peter Parker and then Spider-Man and then Bruce Wayne and then Batman. No, no, no. Superman is Superman at first, and then he is Clark Kent to blend in. And he equates that to Beatrix. And as this truth serum is kicking in for Beatrix, he asks her all these questions about, do you think that life in Texas really would have worked? And she has no choice but to say the truth because she has truth serum in her. And she tells him the truth begrudgingly, emotionally. And that's another great sequence of acting from Uma Thurman. I love that. And then ultimately, we get to see the last show off between Beatrix and Bill outside at the table while he's drinking whiskey. And we get that beautiful sequence with two swords. Her sword gets thrown away from Bill, but she still has the holster where the sword goes in. And as Bill is ready to stab her with the sword, she sticks the holster onto the sword and uses the 5 pressure point kill to kill Bill. We find out if once you take 5 steps after getting hit with the 5 pressure points of death, do you really die? And you really do die after taking 5 steps after getting hit with the 5 pressure point of death. Ultimately, the last sequence of this film is BB going with Beatrix to this hotel, and we get to see BB be a kid watching cartoons as Beatrix is in the bathroom crying in an emotionally distraught way. On one hand, she completed what she needed to do. She completed this revenge that she needed to do. She killed everyone that ruined her life. She killed Bill, who was someone who meant a lot to her and is ultimately the father of her kid. And parts of her are upset by that. But another part of her is happy about it, that she finally gets to be a mother and live her life with her kid. And she's happy that her daughter is still alive. And the last shot we get is BB and Beatrix smiling while watching cartoons. And it's brilliant. Yes, this is a film about action. Yes, this is the greatest action story about revenge. But it also is a film about being a mother and having your motherhood stripped away from you and the powers of being a mother. And it's fucking brilliant. It's really one of the most brilliant films of the 21st century, and it's one of my core favorite films. And now I consider the Kill Bill franchise as just one film, The Whole Bloody Affair. So, Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, ultimately, I give this film a 5 out of 5, and I think it's pure brilliance, and I think the newest additions to this film are much needed. I think the 7-minute animated sequence is brilliant, and I think the Crazy 88 sequence being colorized now is fucking awesome. And this film is timeless. It's a classic, and it's a film that I will habitually revisit whenever I want to because I love it so much. In my opinion, I also think it's the second greatest film Quentin Tarantino has ever made. And right now, I'll give you guys my quick top 5 Quentin Tarantino list. But first, 5 out of 5 for The Whole Bloody Affair. It is worth the price of admission, and it is worth the 4 hour and 48 minutes that you have to sit through. So go see it because you truly never know with the state of the movie theaters when you will be able to see a film like this ever again in theater. Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, worth the price of admission, and it's one of the most fun times, if not the most fun I had at theaters all year. It is fucking amazing. Uma Thurman gives the performance of a lifetime. There are so many great and unique and original characters in this film, specifically Oren Ishii and Bud and Bill topping that list, and Pai Mei, and it's fucking incredible. I love this film. I think it's action, cinematic greatness, and it's a masterpiece. It is masterful. It is cinematically perfect. The best action sequences of the 21st century take place in this film. So, yeah, Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, fucking brilliant, and it's certainly The Whole Bloody Affair. Let's talk about it. My top 5 Quentin Tarantino films of all time. Now, this is a list that fluctuates, but ultimately, number 1 remains clear. So, obviously, my favorite Quentin Tarantino film of all time is Pulp Fiction. It's the greatest film ever made, and I can watch that film any day and not get tired. And then number 2, I have Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, in my opinion. I think it's the second greatest film Quentin Tarantino has ever made. It's the greatest action film of all time. Number 3, I have Reservoir Dogs. Just maybe the greatest directorial debut of all time. Reservoir Dogs is fucking incredible. Harvey Keitel, Michael Marsden, Steve Buscemi, Chris Penn, Tim Roth, just brilliance at its finest. And then at number 4, I have Inglourious Basterds, easily one of the best films of the 21st century. And you can argue it's Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece, but I think Pulp Fiction is. But honestly, I think Quentin Tarantino has created like 5 to 6 masterpieces. So, I mean, that's just how I really feel. I think Quentin Tarantino has created masterpiece after masterpiece pretty much for the entirety of his film making career. Number 5, I have another great film of the 21st century, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think it is misunderstood. I think the performances are great. I think Leonardo DiCaprio's Rick Dalton is one of the best performances of the 21st century. And I think it's a film that I love to live in. And I think it's one of the best homages to the golden age of Hollywood. So that is my top 5 for Quentin Tarantino. As hard as that list gets, I have Pulp Fiction number 1, Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair 2, Reservoir Dogs number 3, Inglourious Basterds number 4, and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood number 5. So that is my Quentin Tarantino ranking. Let me know if you agree in the comments. If you made this far in the video, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe right now to Matt Talks Films. Follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And yeah, I'll see you guys there on that platform if you want to see more of this content. And I'll be honest with you guys, this week Ellen McKay comes out. It's a trailer I've been seeing every time I go to the theaters recently, and it looks horrible, but I might see it because I love movies. I love going to the movie theaters. But also, Jay Kelly just came out on Netflix. I don't know if you guys feel this way. I have a hard time watching new releases on Netflix. I don't know what it is. I just prefer to watch new releases in theaters. But I have to watch Frankenstein, the Guillermo del Toro film that just got released with Jacob Elordi and my guy Oscar Isaac, and then I have Jay Kelly to watch. So yeah, I have a hard time watching new releases on Netflix. I'd rather watch them in theaters, but sadly, I live in fucking Poughkeepsie, and new releases like that don't get shown in Poughkeepsie. I might do a Jay Kelly review or an Ellen McKay review. If not, you will see me next week for an Avatar: Fire and Ash review, which, if you guys don't know, I'm not a huge fan of that franchise. I really don't know how people can say that's some of their favorite films of all time. I think James Cameron's talents are being misused through that franchise. I think his talents can be used quite mightily in other spaces. Really, I'm not a huge fan of Avatar, but I will be going to see Avatar: Fire and Ash. But also, The Shining is getting shown in IMAX this weekend. So hopefully I have enough time to go see that this weekend because I love The Shining. It's one of my favorite films of all time. To get to see that in IMAX would be tremendous. So I can't wait to see that if I can. So that is it for me. Follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films if you want more content like this. Subscribe right now if you made it this far. Leave a like, comment. Let me know your favorite Quentin Tarantino film, and let me know your top 5 ranking of Quentin Tarantino's filmography. And let me know how you feel about Kill Bill: The Whole Affair if you saw it. Follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Subscribe. Follow me at Matt Talks Sports if you like sports content, at Matt Talks Sports, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I'll see you there. And guess what, guys? It's your boy Matt Talks Films. I'll catch you on the flip side.